Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So, it's not a secret. I don't have to sit here and preface anything. We already know what the hell is going on. Okay. Um, I'm just putting out my perspective on it and that kind of stuff because a lot of people seem to be asking me what in the hell actually is going on and what do we do. Um, Between some of my student base and some of my own soldiers that are asking me a lot of these questions. So, let's put things into perspective. Okay. This was originally about a protest against police brutality against a dude that was very clearly murdered by a piece of shit and his piece of shit partner. Okay, that were being pieces of shit, and there were also two other cops that just kind of stood by as well. So, um, realistically speaking, if it was just about that, okay, if government institutions were feeling a lot of backlash in Minneapolis, if there was a lot of nonsense going on that they had to deal with because of this specifically, there's nothing more than I can really say about that. Okay, they made their own bed, and they would have to deal with a lot of backlash if it stayed about that. Unfortunately, that's not what it stayed. What it turned into was these protests were basically taken over by a whole bunch of people that were looking for an excuse to be a cunt, really. And what's wild about that whole thing is that because of these people, your Antifa types, you're stir crazy fucking people that have nothing better to do than to find reasons to be cunts. Um, they've rendered that entire process. They've rendered that whole movement. They've rendered that whole protest, the purpose behind all of that, which in its original capacity is actually noble. They've rendered it entirely dead. That's not what this is about anymore. What it's turned into is a whole bunch of people looting private businesses, okay, and not just like the major chains either. You have a lot of mom and pop stores. You have a lot of people that were built up from the ground by individuals just trying to make it. Okay, you have you have black business owners that are sitting there crying their eyes out, pleading with people, why would you do this to me? And there are some other guys that see this stuff happening in their store, and they bust out shotguns and rifles and shit. Okay, and I can't blame these guys. I can't, because if I was a business in a city and it's coming under attack by a whole bunch of assholes that for no reason at all have involved me in their nonsense, I would do what any other self-defense conscious human being would do, because that's me, that's mine, that's my family's. You don't get to fuck with that. Okay, and you certainly don't get to threaten other people with bodily harm just because you're upset or looking for a reason to be a cunt. Okay, now, the perspectives here and the defenses for both sides. As far as the looting and burning of buildings and all this other shit, some of these despicable cunts have decided to bring up the Boston Tea Party, which is hilarious because if you remember, the East Indian Trading Company was told not to go into the Boston Harbor. It was loaded to the gills with a whole bunch of product that was taxed without representation. One of the main reasons why, one of the many, frankly, reasons why the colonies were separating or beginning to separate from the established empire that they were a part of. Okay? And, as a note, by the way, the crew of that ship was left entirely unharmed. All they did was destroy the thing that was directly linked to the things that they were protesting. Okay? And this is goods taxed without the representation from anybody. Taking that and linking it to the burning of an AutoZone or some guy's bar or clothing store or whatever. That has nothing to do at all with the Boston Tea Party. Nothing. This is like a demonstrable fact if you would just open a fucking textbook. Okay? And of course, I'm keeping things as brief as possible. I could go into extreme detail about a lot of stuff, but I won't. That's the main point here. Okay? Because I'm going to stay on target, much like these protests are not. Now, there's a whole lot of places, there's a whole lot of people that are absolutely losing their shit now because these mass riots and mass property damage and all this other shit, things that the cops can absolutely not hold down. And as a by the way, they fucked up to start, so it's not being made any easier whatsoever. The National Guard's being called up in a lot of different places. You have to understand, the individual states have a right to call in the state guard for disaster relief, and that's what this is. It's a fucking disaster. Okay? Because, again, people looking for an excuse to be cunts decided that they were going to go way outside of what their protest was originally about. A lot of them without even a thought toward the protest. It's just a whole bunch of people are me. Let me go beat some dudes with bike chains and shit like that because I'm an asshole. That's basically where a lot of these people are at. And then, of course, like I said, you have groups like Antifa, which are just filled to the gills with the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet. So, you have a lot of state guard getting called in to deal with this nonsense. Because that's exactly what it is. Okay? Now, the fact remains is that the more extreme that this gets, the response is going to get more extreme. Okay? If there was anything that I could say to anybody that's in these protests and that kind of stuff, it's like, look, if I was you, if I was part of the original message, if I was about, holding these police officers accountable, if I was about holding that police station accountable, because police stations are notorious for not prosecuting their own cops well. Okay, even though, a lot of times cops that murder people, that's what that was. That dude murdered that guy. Even though a lot of those guys get sent to jail, police agencies around the country are pretty notorious for not prosecuting their own very well. Okay. If it's about justice for that, and if you were on the ground floor when you started up with protests with your boys and all that, you should probably start shielding private institutions, meaning private businesses and that kind of stuff. You should probably keep these Antifa scarf wearing faggots away from those businesses. You should probably do your very damnedest to make sure that none of that happens. Because I'm telling you right now, unless it's made clear that the people that are actually about justice for this dude are not taking clear steps to make sure that innocent people, their businesses, their livelihoods, and the people themselves are not harmed, I'm telling you right now, it's going to get really bad. For the regular ass citizen and that kind of stuff that sees messages about from Antifa groups like Operation Fuck This City, and a bunch of bullshit like that, what I would say personally, if you're not already, which is some horse shit, carry a gun every day, all the time. Don't fuck about. This is not the time for that. Okay? Maintain a watchful eye on your communities. Do what you gotta do. As this progresses, and especially if you're not in particularly hot areas, you need to seek training. You need to know how to use that damn thing, because it's pretty obvious that some of these air quotes protesters are being shot by private citizens because they're doing wild shit. Okay? I don't know how much more clear I need to be on this. So, realistically speaking, it's look, these protests and the aftermath, in all of that, especially when people start calling in the guard. This is going to be dead really fast. Okay? As a quick aside, you notice that all of the COVID-19 extra hype has kind of died down, especially after all of the real information on how deadly this crap actually is got released by the CDC, even though they were labeling it as, the deaths between definitely tested, he definitely died from this, and maybe, since like the first day. And I've been making a lot of posts about that, and people have given me a ton of flack and that kind of shit until the actual data started coming out. And oh my god, the math has been what I've been preaching for months. But that's an aside. Look, this will die down pretty quickly. But the things to remember from all this is you have to be watchful if you're going to do stuff like this. You have to maintain positive, accountability of who it is that you're allowing into your movements. Okay. The Virginia protests that had thousands on thousands of people armed. Okay. Tons of black people were there too, by the way, with rifles and shit. Nobody got hurt. There wasn't even fucking litter left behind. That's a peaceful protest. It is. And it sent a message throughout the entire nation. If you allow, as a movement, for 1 second, that to get fucking wild, you're no longer about that movement anymore. You lose all of your credibility, and that's how the guard comes in. When the second the guard comes in, it's not about your movement anymore. It's about keeping people around you from doing the stupidest shit on the planet. And that's torpedo your movement with their nonsense. So as protesters, you should probably police up those fuckers that are doing harm to others. I know I'm not the only person that said anything like this. For a fact, I'm not the only person that said this, but honestly, we need to push that kind of stuff. Make it about your message and the message. That's it. Make it about your message. Don't make it about anything else. Don't let it be made about anything else. Because as much as people want to try to create a race war and all this other stupid shit, we know we're not stupid. It's not about the race aspect. As hard as they try to make it that way, it's not about the race aspect, because everybody is dealing with cops doing wild shit. Police in police stations, you need to keep your bros accountable and stuff, because I know good cops exist. Okay? Cops that are actually about serving their communities and that kind of shit. And yes, I recognize the comment section's gonna fucking nuke me about saying that. But there are tons of people that are police officers that don't allow this wild shit to happen. Okay? I encourage police officers that are actually good ones, step out. Step out of the shadows. Stop watching shit. Stop being assholes by allowing assholes to do asshole shit. Get in there and hold your guys accountable. Because you didn't sign up for the easy job. Sorry. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to agree with me or disagree with me or whatever. But look, I was all about holding the Minneapolis cops accountable for everything that had happened. I was all about the protesting. I was all about that stuff until all this wild shit happened, and now I'm off the train. Because how can you associate with something like that? How could you back anything like that and maintain any sort of credibility? How could you encourage things like that? It's not a good idea. It's really not. This isn't armed revolution time. It's not. It's really not, because it's tainted. Okay? You have to have solid foundations. You have to have a solid moral ground to move on, or you just won't have people. You won't have people to back you up. Not good ones anyway. I mean, do you really want communists in your back pocket? I don't think so. But that's just one fucking guy's opinion. If you want to come out and train with us, come out and train with us. If you want to support us through Patreon or sign up for the $41 a month thing so you can train with us as much as you want, go ahead. If you want to check us out on Facebook, All of the links for this are in the description below, and you know what? That's just how it goes. A regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy, but be mindful of what tyranny actually means.